Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Kelly, one of the researchers and history lovers on the African American High Schools in Louisiana before 1970 History Project. Today, I have the pleasure of sharing with you an interview with Ms. Brenda Green, a former student and alumnus of Capitol High School of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Ms. Green is being interviewed by Dr. Russell Hill, and she shares with us her fond memories of the students, teachers, coaches, and academic scholars at Capitol High during the mid 1960s. Ms. Green gives us a detailed description of the school spirit, teacher commitment, and motivational factors used by the teachers and administrators to develop scholars and prepare them for successful careers and occupations upon graduation from Capitol High School. Enjoy.
Hello, Miss Green. How are you?
Fine. Hello, Dr. Hill. I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Okay. Miss Green, I understand that you attended Capitol High School in Baton Rouge. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What dates did you matriculate at Capitol High School?
From the fall of 1961 through the spring of 1965.
In the spring of 1965. Okay. And Capitol High School served a certain community. Will you explain what community the students attended Capitol High School?
Well, it was really the central area of Baton Rouge at that time, and that included communities that were given the name such as the Lake, Easy Town, Brookstown, Zion City, Eden Park, Old Bird Station, New Bird Station, and Boulevard Bottom. Now, there were some students from all over the city who chose to come to Capitol rather than attending the school in their district.
Okay.
But the areas that I mentioned, those students were assigned to Capitol by the school board.
Okay. Now, in 1961, Capitol had been in existence for about 11 years.
Correct.
So,
However, originally the school was Capitol Junior Senior High School, and it became Capitol High School in 1959, I believe.
now, wasn't it originally established as Capitol Avenue High School?
Capitol Avenue Junior Senior High School.
Okay. And
It was composed of grades 7 through 12.
Okay.
And then they split it, and the old school became the junior high school, which later became known as the middle school. That was grades 7 and 8. And then the high school, which moved to 23rd Street from Capitol Avenue, 23rd Street, a new building, over $1 million at that time in construction, and it was Capitol Senior High School.
Now, who was the principal of Capitol High School when you arrived?
When I arrived, Charles W. Keel was the principal.
Charles W. Keel. Was he the first principal?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so he was still...
Legendary.
Okay. Now, describe Mr. Keel as an administrator.
Oh.
Okay. In other words, what was his personality? What was his personality?
Okay. All right. Mr. Keel was the epitome of professionalism. Not only was he personally, a professional, a scholar, he required that of his instructors, his teachers. As a result, he was given latitude as far as hiring of teachers. And these teachers that he hired from the beginning either had their master's degree and high academic honors from college, or they promised, they pledged to work on their master's under his administration. And a lot of people don't know that if you didn't have your master's and you expected to be hired with great grades from your undergraduate or your baccalaureate degree, he required that you go and work on them. And so you found a high level of professionalism even among his teachers. But at the same time, we find that, let's see how to put it, his personality was such, he was very strict, very, very strict, but he was not cruel. He was not mean. He was well respected by his faculty members and by the students at the school. So Mr. Keel actually became a legend, not only in the area, in the district, capital district, but throughout the school system and throughout the state. Not only that, he was a lover of music, of fine music, and he's a lover of the arts. And he promoted the arts at the school. He also sang opera. He sang professionally from time to time. And his love for opera and the classics and the like transcended his administration at Capitol. He demanded excellence, and he respected excellence. Let's see what else. He was, I guess you say, a man of God, but not in the sense where you would think of him being extremely meek. He was not that, but he was extremely wise.
Now, that was very good. Do you recall who some of the faculty members are? I imagine you cannot tell me about all of them, but can you just list them and say a word or two about them if you would like?
Sure. When I was there, Castle had a large faculty, and I even realized after I became teacher at another school, from the crossover, I realized we had larger faculty than some of the schools that we had, especially the departments. I knew by the departments. But we had art teachers there, Mr. Duvall, very quiet man, Mr. Klein Peter, who was much younger, but he was a very tall, imposing character, but a lot of fun. We had three business teachers there. We had Miss Lovely, Alciny Lovely, and we had C-Bell Jones, who was the chairman of the department, C-Bell Chase Jones. And we had Mr. Martin. He was a newcomer to the school, but he came in the early 60s to the school, around the time I got there. We had a large English faculty, because I know we had over 10 teachers, instructors of English language arts.
Over 10?
Over 10, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Will you name some?
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Will you?
And these are the ones I remember are the ones who were left when some of the others had gone. For example, that was Miss Nelson. I never met her, but she was legendary. And Miss Powell, I.S. Powell, she taught my sister, and I learned a lot of poetry from her, but she was not there when I got there.
Okay.
All right, there was Miss Marion Guthrie, who was excellent as a writing teacher, but she was also the assistant choir director because she majored in the arts, literary arts and music. And she actually was the pianist for the choir, along with teaching English. There was Miss Green, Elvira Williams Green. She came there late, but she had come from Southern Lab. But she was a woman very, very religious, very, very professional, modest in her attire. Then there was Miss Lusk, Sandy Doris Lusk. She was a Zeta. And she had gone to the Army. She was a WAC. War II. And no one crossed Miss Lusk. But she was extremely organized. I remember that. And I used to say, ooh, I don't want to be in that lady's class because I see everything that she has on the board every day. I said, I wouldn't be able to keep up, you know. But the kids loved her students. I was afraid to go to her. And that was Johnny Jackson. He taught English 3, I think. But on the side, he was a band director, band leader. Which, not at Capitol. I'm talking about after school, club bands or whatever. So he was not only known for being an outstanding educator, but he was also an outstanding musician in the Baton Rouge area, Johnny Jackson. Let's see, who else? Pinky Sanders. Miss Sanders came, I think, around 62 or 63. And she taught English 4. She was one of the English 4 teachers. And very, very gentle lady, well respected. Then the biggie in that English department, however, was Almina Williams Weathers. And before she died, she remarried. She was Thomas. So she was Almina Williams Weathers Thomas. And she taught English 4. She was over that English department. And her skill was writing. She taught her students to write. And when I say research papers, you know, like research papers now, well, when I left the school system as an instructor, teachers required, English teachers and social studies teachers required one paper a year. Not Ms. Weather. You had 2 per semester. And I mean, she walked you through it and everything. And I'm going to tell you how good she was because as far as teaching literature, that part of it, she was all right. But when it came to writing, when I went to Southern as a student, and I had to do my first research paper under Dr. Melvin Butler at Southern. When I got it, I got so afraid, you know, that it would not be good enough. I received 3 A's, organization, content, and something else. Oh, and grammar, you know. And he called me, Dr. Butler called me to his office, and he asked, he said, Ms. Green, he said, where did you attend school? And I asked him, I said, Dr. Butler, why is this important? He said, let me ask you this. Were you under Almina Weathers? I said, yes, sir. He said, I could tell her students anywhere. And I said, how is that? And he told me, he said, her students know Campbell's approach to research writing. And that's exactly what she taught. And he said he had no problem with her students writing and organizing papers, and he knew from the papers that the kids wrote that they had been under her. I was surprised at that, and the next time I saw her, which was maybe a year or so later, I had to thank her because we used to criticize her so much because of that you know, the poetry and the literature part, but we didn't realize that we were getting top of the line. And then later, we found some of her writings in the Smithsonian. Okay, so then we had John Huggins. He also taught English 4. Now, you have to understand that the class of 65 was the largest class that had gone through Capitol High School. So we had a lot of English 4 teachers. So Mr. Huggins came from Zachary, Louisiana, and he was a good writing, and he was unfortunately killed, I think, in the fall of 1967 in an accident, automobile accident. Then we had Lena Lockhart. She was new. She came from Southern Leah, and she was good. She was very good. I can't say outstanding as far as her class. I didn't know much about her class. But as far as her students, she worked very closely with students and with student organizations. Then we had Yvonne Holliday, who later became Yvonne Bradford. She ended up being in the crossover, and she crossed over from Capitol High in 1970 to Lehigh. And then she later came to Broadmoor High, where I was. But she taught English 2. and she was a product of Capitol High School also. Then we had Miss Morrison, Helen Morrison, and Miss Morrison was from the Baker Zachary area. She came from Scotlandville. She was transferred to Capitol from Scotlandville. And if I'm not mistaken, she's the only one in that department who's still living. And Ollie Bell Chase. Ollie Bell Chase was an English 3 teacher. She taught writing. She was excellent. She taught writing and she taught some drama classes along with Albert Odell. He was in the department, who was actually an English drama teacher. And this Mr. Odell, Miss Chase, and Joyce Rochelle, who was over the choir, the music department, and Marion Guthrie, who was an English teacher. She was the pianist for the choir. They together every spring would put on a professional production with the choir, the band, and the drama students. One year it was Manhattan Towers, and that went all over the South. They ended up touring with that, and the opera Porgy and Bess. They did that to high acclaim, very high acclaim. These were high school students, and I think that's all to the
English. Okay.
To the English department.
Okay.
That is English.
Let's go to math.
Oh, math department was larger than the English department. Okay. The math department had a lot of young teachers. Miss Thompson, and she taught Algebra 1, and Mr. Jackson, who was a Capitol graduate, he graduated in 60 and came back to Capitol in 64. He was also a football player and played not only for Capitol but played for Southern. And then he came back to teach at Capitol and later became principal of another high school here. They called him Tack. His nickname was Tack, but his name was Elijah Jack, but they called him Tack. Then you had Jewel Kelly, who was an Algebra 1, Algebra 2 teacher. No, I'm sorry, she was geometry and Algebra 2 teacher. And she was Jewel Smith Kelly. And her teaching style was very relaxed. She was more like one who would have you find for yourself. You had the questions, and she put you in a position in order to find it. She'd teach you, but at the same time, you had to seek it out and find it for yourself. And she was an excellent teacher, although sometimes we thought that we weren't learning anything until it came to the national testing, and we said, goodness, that's easy. But anyway, we had Osborne Johnson, and I don't know where he went to school. He was older because his children were with us in school, but he lived in the area that was known as Old Bird Station, and his son graduated in 67, and he's now pastor of the mega church called Living Faith. Okay, you had George Hayes, who was from Clinton, and George, most people called him Dewey, but George Hayes was a math teacher. I didn't know too much about many of the math teachers. There were only 3 or 4 that I had math under. But let's see, it was Miss Roberta Nelson. I think she was the last one to come to the school in math. She was a Delta. Mm-hmm. She came to Capitol. She came to Capitol when I was in 10th grade. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it took the last of them to come. And now the chairman of the math department was Dorcel Vincent Davis, an older woman who had been widowed at the age of 23 with 4 children. And she was a modeste. She made clothes and she altered clothes and she worked for a lot of those Jewish department stores. Mm-hmm. And she raised her kids, and once they were grown, then she went back to school and got her degrees, both her bachelor and her master's degrees, and began teaching. Mm-hmm. because her children were much older than I. But she was an excellent, excellent teacher. And the thing that I liked best about all of the teachers at Capital when I was there was that they would work very hard together to help any students who were in need. And the bulk, 95% of the students at Capital were impoverished. Although we didn't know it at the time, but our teachers actually looked out for us. And Miss Dorothy Davis, was one of those who would make clothes for students. There was no excuse at Capital for not participating in certain club or organizations because you didn't have money for the uniform or the shirt or whatever. Those teachers would buy them or make them or whatever. There was nothing that would be too much for those teachers at the school. And you had, when I send you the book, you'll see some of these people.
Okay. What about for the science teachers?
Okay. Your science teachers, you had, I think, 9 or 10 of them. Might be more than that. Julia Moore was the chairman. Okay. You met Julia already.
Yes.
And Ray Davison taught chemistry. John Earl Perkins taught physics and physical science. And he was a genius. But he was such a genius that he couldn't even leave Baton Rouge. I'm very serious about that. There were government agents that would not let him leave because he had done so many things and so many discoveries and so many patents or whatever. They were very fearful of his leaving this area to sell patents to, unknown folks. And he was not an ordinary person. He was one of those eccentric geniuses, Okay, you had Dolores Scott. She, too, taught chemistry, along with Victor Bayham, who taught chemistry. So we had three chemistry teachers. Okay. Yeah, we had 3 chemistry teachers.
What about physics? And how many physics teachers?
We had two physics teachers.
And they were?
John Earl Perkins and Willie Shorter. Okay, but Willie Shorter also taught biology along with Paul Poydras.
Oh, okay.
And one taught zoology and the other taught botany.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is, you may begin the year in biology with Mr. Shorter, but the second semester you didn't have Mr. Shorter, you had Mr. Poydras. So we were blessed, to have 2 teachers. Those were their specialties. And that was one of the great things about the school, is that Mr. Keel allowed the teachers to work in the areas that they specialize in, in particular. And that takes me back a minute to math, because I didn't mention Matthian C. Matthian Matthian C was a math teacher at Capital, but he was the only teacher in East Baton Rouge Parish who had a bachelor's in math and a master's in pure mathematics. Okay, and Mr. Keel got him as soon as he got out of graduate school. But in the end, with the crossover, C had to go, and C ended up at Broadmoor High School with a number of us. I think there were 9 of us from Capital that ended up at Broadmoor High School in 1970.
Okay.
Then you had Selma McDonald, and Miss McDonald taught general science and home economics. And sometimes you had, crossovers like that. And she was a former Miss Southern University. Beautiful lady, beautiful personality. We had Mr. Williams. That was a physics. That's right, Mr. Williams was a physics teacher. Eugene Williams. And I think he graduated from the senior high, if I'm not mistaken, Capital Junior Senior High School back in the late 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And Eloise Gwynn, and Corey Stimley. I think I covered them. I'm sort of like going through the yearbook
Okay.
too
No.
while I'm talking to you.
Okay. Now, question. Did you all have auto mechanics?
Yes, we did. But wait. Stop. We didn't have it until after 70.
After 70, okay.
After 70.
Okay. What about industrial arts?
Yes.
Okay. Who were the instructors there?
Mr. Klein Peter, the guy I was telling you about in art.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he taught industrial arts also, and Mr. Greenup taught industrial arts also.
Okay.
And Mr. Parks, you had several of them.
Okay. No.
You had Mr. Parks, Robert Parks. His daughters graduated with me from high school, and you had Mr. Haynes, and okay.
What about home economics?
Home economics, we had 4 or 5. Listen, we had Miss Frazier, we had Miss Dansberg, and who was that other person? Miss Robinson. She was also a former Miss Southern University. Gwen Robinson, Barbara Franklin, and Miss Brown. See, what you didn't ask about is social science.
Okay, we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, because I would do music next.
Okay, that was Miss Rochelle,
Okay.
Joyce Rochelle. She was over choir. Clayton Gray was over band.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Guthrie, who was the English teacher, she also was the pianist.
Okay. Who was your drama person?
Mr. Odell, who also taught English.
You also taught English. Now, let's go into your social sciences. How many instructors did you have there?
Let's see, when I was a senior, there were about 10, 9 or 10.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, Vernell Scott, that's one of them that I really want you to talk to, but we're trying to figure out how to get in touch with him. His brother was my classmate,
Okay.
and I know how to get in touch with his brother. He's in Virginia, but I have not yet sent a text to his brother.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, but Irma Jones taught world history.
Mm-hmm.
Vernell Scott taught world geography and American history. John Tucker taught world history and civics.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey Means O'Connor taught civics. Joanne Bishop Robertson Thomas Austin taught civics. She now lives in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
We just got in touch with her right before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And the class inundated her with Christmas cards and the like.
Okay.
Charlie Thomas taught world geography and civics. Taurus Tacno, Tacneau, Taurus, Toris, taught civics, I believe. Catherine Mills taught, I'm trying to see, American history. Buffington Cox taught American history. And Alvin McQuarrie taught American history.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Alvin McQuarrie was a Methodist minister also, a pastor, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we've... what about foreign languages? What foreign languages did Capital...
French and Spanish.
French and Spanish. Okay. Who were your French teachers?
Alsylvia Smith was the French teacher. No, there was 3 of them, right? Alsylvia Smith was the French teacher. John Holloman, Hollman, was a French teacher. And Senor Henry Stewart was the Spanish teacher.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Good. I think we've taken care of all of the academics as far as faculty. Am I correct?
I think so. We had 2.
Yes.
We had 2 librarians. No, we had
Librarians.
3 librarians.
Who were your librarians?
We had Joyce Foster Banks, We had Joyce Robinson, and we had Rosalie Odds Sims.
Okay. Now, have I covered everything as far as academics?
Yeah, I think you have covered everything.
Okay. Now, who was the football coach?
Purnell, Coach Purnell.
Coach Purnell was the football coach. Okay.
P-R-N-E-L-L.
Okay.
Coach Purnell was the football coach.
Okay. Now, did you attend the games?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Approximately.
the whole thing we could do on Friday night.
What was the approximate record of Capital High School? There.
Now that's funny.
Okay.
That's funny. I could not tell you. Overall, from the 50s through the early 60s, Capital was a powerhouse.
Okay.
And we played teams not only in Louisiana, but in Florida and in Texas. But lo and behold, when my class started playing varsity ball, we lost everything.
Oh, okay.
We were whipped 70-0 and scores like that.
Oh, okay.
But we followed them anyway.
Okay. Now, let's go to basketball.
Okay.
Okay. Who was the coach for basketball?
Coach Hogan.
Coach Hogan.
Was Coach Hogan was the basketball coach.
Okay.
And that's for the boys.
Okay.
The boys basketball coach was Coach Hogan.
Okay. Do you recall who some of the basketball players were when you were? Yeah.
Yeah, they were probably the same folks, some of them football. The outstanding basketball player for Capital was a guy by the name of Samuel Butler. But his nickname was Mooney. And there was a large group of them. Mooney was older than the majority of us. They used to call him oldie but goodie. But at one time, you could stay in high school forever and play ball. And then it came down on them. And I think in 64, the class of 1964 was the class in which they got all those people out of there. But you had Oldie Franklin, you had Samuel Butler, you had Charles Tilley, you had what's that boy's name? I could see his face and I can't think of his Earl Epson.
Okay.
You had Earl Epson and Robert Brown. They were outstanding players.
Right. Now, how did Capital usually do in basketball? How were they?
Winners. Their closest competition was McKinley. McKinley had a powerhouse also. So the rivalry was great. We won more basketball games than we lost.
Okay.
But with McKinley, I think they won more basketball games with in our rivalry. They won more than we.
Okay. Now, who were your competing schools in your district?
Capital was with McKinley, Scotlandville, trying to say Northwestern.
You all may have played the lab school too, Southern Lab.
Yeah, and the lab school.
Okay.
But the lab school was not in our district because it wasn't public.
Right.
But we did play the lab school.
Right, but
We also played PA Levy from time to time.
yep. Yes. What about Cheneyville? You played them probably played them.
Yeah, we played Cheneyville maybe once or twice.
Okay. What about Rosenwald?
Yep, out of New Road.
New
Yep,
Roads.
we played Rosenwald a couple of times.
Okay. What
I
about?
remember going to New Roads. My mother worked over there.
Okay.
And I remember going over there to a game with my mother and my aunt, who also worked over there.
What about Corn High?
We didn't play corn. I don't recall.
Or Port Allen?
Right? We did not play corn high that I recall.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying that is because I have a lot of cousins who attended corn, and I don't remember playing any of them.
Okay. What about Iberville High School?
No.
In play?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, and did you play any other schools from, let's say, J.S. Clark of Opelousas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Clark, Appaloosa, we played. As a matter, yeah, I remember going to those games.
Okay.
And also, we played, what was that school in Bogalusa?
Oh, Central Memorial.
Yeah, Central Memorial in Bogalusa. We
Okay.
played them from time to time.
Okay. Did you ever play Park Avenue High School?
No, where's Park Avenue?
It may have been Willow Street at that time. Park Avenue, Willow Street. It's in Franklin.
No.
Okay.
No.
Did you ever?
That's down south.
Yeah. Did you ever play the Lake Charles schools, W.O. Boston and Washington?
Yes, we played W.O. Boston.
Okay.
We did.
W.O.
And
Boston.
I do believe we played Booker Washington out of Lake Charles. It's now Washington, Maryland, but I think we played Booker Washington.
No,
Charles.
it wasn't Booker Washington. It was Washington High School. There were only two.
Actually,
No, there were only
well,
two.
maybe it was Washington High School.
It was Washington. Yeah, it was Washington High School, and there were only two Booker T. Washingtons, one in New Orleans and one in Shreveport. But it was Washington High School.
Okay, Washington High School.
Okay. Then, what about? Did you ever play Peabody? Peabody.
Yeah, out of Alexandria. Yeah.
Alexandria. And did you all play any New Orleans schools?
Yeah. Where was it that Claire? Oh God. It wasn't Carver. It wasn't Corn. It may have been Booker Washington.
Okay, Booker T. Washington. Okay.
It may have been Booker Washington. I have to ask my cousin Ted. He was at Booker Washington for 50 years.
Okay.
He would probably tell you.
Did you ever recall playing schools from Monroe, such as Carroll?
Yes, we played Carroll, but those were the playoffs.
Yes. Okay. Now, what kind? The girls' basketball team. Who is the girls' basketball team coach?
Coach Shorter, Willie Shorter, who also taught biology.
Mm-hmm. And
He was girls' basketball coach. And let me tell you something about Mr. Shorter too. Mr. Shorter did ACT preparation for students after school from the time I was in ninth grade through my senior year.
Okay.
Any student. And it would be like from 6 to 8 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Mr. Bayham, who was a chemistry teacher, and he also became a counselor later on. Mr. Bayham did chemical bonding approach chemistry on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings from 4 to 6.
Oh, okay.
So for a lot of students at Capital, by choice, you could go to classes 4 hours beyond the regular school day.
Now, as far as the girls' basketball team, will you name some of the players who you could remember?
Oh, yeah, Lena Jackson. Lena Jackson was in the class of 63, I believe. And back then, we played half-court basketball, girls.
Yes.
Played half-court basketball. Lena Jackson was outstanding. She received all kinds of state awards, too. Mary Wade Williams. She's now Martine. She was outstanding. Brenda Williams Brown, outstanding. Patricia Brown. And she was Patricia Ford. Patricia Ford was outstanding. Thaddeus Carter, and she's now a Kyle, K-Y-L-E. They were good. And I forgot Rose Dunn. Rose Dunn was also a girls basketball coach. She and Coach Shorter did it together. And Rose Dunn was also the APE teacher.
Okay. Now, generally, how good were the girls' basketball team?
Very good. every year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Winning record every year.
Okay. Were they
Eleanor Johnson.
ever able to take district titles or zone titles?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, what about the baseball team? Who was the baseball coach?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I didn't follow baseball. I don't even know if we had a baseball team. We may have had baseball team. I can't remember baseball team.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Okay. What about track now? Do you recall who may have been the track coach?
Holder.
Yeah, okay.
Not Coach Hogan. I'm sorry, Coach Hogan.
Okay.
And he just about all those guys like who played basketball and football.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the cut. They were multi sports players.
Okay. Now, approximately how many students were at Capitol when you were there?
About 1,500.
About 1,500. Okay.
Somewhere between 13 and 1,500.
13 to 1,500. Oh, okay. Okay. And if you'd have to, what were your most memorable moments at Capitol High School?
Oh, God. I can tell you.
Most memorable.
Oh, I'm telling you. My most memorable moments were when we went to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
for a tour of the nation's capital. That was something that we talked about when I was a freshman. And it took us 3 years or 2.5 years to get the school board to approve it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite memorable. The prom was most memorable because we had the first completely formal. We began the formal prom at Capitol.
Oh,
The
okay.
junior prom.
Okay, what was your theme? What was
And living in Paris.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And the other thing was, I guess I have to say it was so many because my class had a goal when we entered in '61. There were certain things that we wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and we achieved them. We had to fight Mr. Keel from time to time, but he'd relent. He'd relent. And he used to call me the little professor because I'd be the spokesperson for anything that we wanted done. And we wanted the yearbook. Capitol had never had a yearbook. So we had to do it as best we could with as few funds as we could, but we got it done.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And the ring, the changing of the ring. Now, he did not like that. Oh, he hated that. But we wanted that ring changed, class ring. Because he said that the Capitol High class ring, wherever you go, if you see that, you know it was a Capitol High person. But we didn't want that same old ring. And we changed it, and as a result, we had a ring ceremony with the student body and members of the school board and the like. We had the first ring ceremony in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Mm-hmm.
And then other schools started having the ring ceremonies.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. No.
So that's why I say there are so many memorable
Okay.
moments, you know.
Okay.
There was a time where the students at Capitol boycotted the cafeteria,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a week-long boycott. And the students who could brought food to share at lunchtime with students who did not have, the food. And we'd camp out in the sunken garden. That's the center of the campus.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of lower. It was lowered sunken garden. We'd camp out there and eat or whatever. But we did all kinds of things. We were children of the 60s. We definitely were.
What were the issues that spurred the boycott?
Well, what happened was that, first of all, the school cafeteria was not preparing food that we thought ought to be. It's not so much the food itself, but how it was prepared. And some of the people in the cafeteria were so nasty to students. And it escalated from there. And that was, unrest of the life. But we ended up getting it changed. We got a new cafeteria manager.
Mm-hmm. And what were the results? What were the results?
Like I said, better food.
Okay.
Much better food to such an extent that people from the school board and from all over would come to council at lunchtime. This is true. This is God's honest truth. Ms. Moore can tell you that. They would come over, but it was just how the people handled it. And this new cafeteria manager, Ms. Mays,
Yes.
should always prepare food on Fridays for students to take home if they wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember those large East rolls and all the long size, all the stuff they used to make in there. They used to do that.
Oh, okay.
And give it to kids, brown bags or whatever for kids who needed it or wanted it or the like. It was just a different atmosphere, and just like everybody at the school ate in the cafeteria.
Okay. Now, a different question. Another question I have is, if you would think of the funniest thing to happen while you were at Capitol,
Let me see.
what would you put at the top?
The funniest thing?
Yes. If something you would laugh at, what would you find to be the funniest?
Honestly, I can't think of any particular incident. Funniest.
Okay.
But when you say funny, I think of the assemblies that we'd have where Mr. Odell and his drama classes would put on skits, comedy skits and things like that. Almost like a Saturday Night Live thing. I used to enjoy that. And everybody was falling out laughing. Now, let me tell you something, too. Show you the kind of principal Mr. Keel was. If it was if it were a serious program like Honor Society, African American Negro History Week, or a chapel program like that, when you enter the foyer of the auditorium, automatically you would hear Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring play by the band in the band pit. And that told you right then, you come in solemn and quiet, and truly, the student body would come in, Mr. Keel would be sitting in the middle of the stage, looking up like he's good, looking at heaven, listening to Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. And you come in, you take your seat, you knew where you were supposed to sit, and you were quiet till everything began. Now, but if it were one of these skits and dramas and things like that, then you come in acting silly. Not too loud, but you come in acting silly.
Okay.
But you had to give respect to the people on stage nonetheless.
Oh, okay.
So that's why Mr. Keel was a man of dual personalities, but that's why I say he was very wise and yet strict or whatever. And you didn't play with him because he had a resounding voice. Mr. Keel would say something like, "Young man," and his voice would resonate all over the school. And they know if Mr. Keel said, "Young man, you can turn around and look and you better come."
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
he was like that. And then he might just tell you a joke.
Okay.
That's how he was.
Now, if you have to look at everything retrospectively and say, I would have changed something that was done at the school, what would you change, or how would you change or modify something?
Okay. The selection of some teachers. Some of those didn't stay. But the selection of some of the teachers, that they had no idea what they were getting into when they came to Capitol High School. Some of them.
Okay.
them did not have the desire to work with kids like us. We weren't the best children in the world, please understand.
Okay.
But at the same time, we did have parents who support and the like. But there were some teachers who came very arrogantly, and as a result of their coming to Capital High School, they had very negative attitudes.
Okay. That's fair.
For example, I'm going to give you one because she recently passed. She was an English teacher. This lady was an English teacher, but she did not want to go in education. And she made it well known. I don't know how she was selected to come to Capital. I really don't. But she was one of the first to go.
Okay.
She didn't want students to interact with her. She stayed at her desk all day. And I found later that she was an only child, and she was a child of privilege. And I said maybe that had something to do with it. But my experiences at Capital were so positive.
Okay.
That's they were.
Okay. Now, do you recall your graduation ceremonies?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you have a baccalaureate exercise?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had
baccalaureate. Had class
we
night.
had
Class night. Okay.
we had all of that.
Okay. And graduation.
Was it baccalaureate? That's not the word. It's not baccalaureate. What is it? But whatever. The Sunday, we had the Sunday service, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of, we call it the baccalaureate activity.
We might have called it baccalaureate.
Yeah. And now, describe your graduation.
Oh, the ceremony itself, all of us had on white robes.
Mm-hmm.
Girls had white dresses under the white robes. And let's see, I was second in line because I was next to the shortest person in the class. As the girls on one side, boys on the, double line, girls on one side, boys on the other. But we started at the back of the school. The band was playing from in the auditorium, which is at the front of the school. But the doors were open so that in the back of the school you could hear the music. Mm-hmm. And we walked behind the faculty, the principal, and the standard bearer. Mm-hmm. The standard bearer, the principal, and the faculty members had on their black undergraduate college gowns with their college colors. Mm-hmm. And the students came behind them. And Mr. Kill said, and he was the one who would go carry us through the march coming in. He wanted the gowns that we had on to flow in the same direction. So when the wind blew, everybody's gown would go the same way. But okay, that's how it began. Mm-hmm. And we had a speaker, and I can't remember who the speaker was, but I have the program here somewhere. I might send it to you. Okay. But our valedictorian was Gloria Young, and our salutatorian was Celestine Washington. Mm-hmm. And both of them are still here in Baton Rouge. Gloria's always been here. Celestine was in Africa and somewhere else, but she's back here. She teaches Spanish. She was one of the outstanding Spanish students. Okay. But Gloria is here now. Gloria,
okay.
Let's see, I was number 3. Dorothy Jackson was number 4. Cassandra Green was number 5. Yeah. I can go through it. Yeah. We had numerous scholarships. Yeah. Okay. Students received numerous scholarships. Mm-hmm. And
now tell me this. How many people were in your graduating class?
My class went through that a few weeks before the pandemic. We went through the program and the like, and we went through, it was 300 and something.
300 plus.
Yeah, 300 plus.
Okay. Yep. So.
And interesting enough, the classes 64, the year before, the class of 64, theirs at that time was the largest class that had ever gone through some through capitals, and then our class came along and we had more.
Oh, okay.
And I used to tease them. I said the only reason why y'all had as many as you had was because they cleared out all the athletes.
Oh.
Because the athletes that graduated with my sister, they had been there.
Okay.
They had been there.
Okay. Good. Now, the next question I have is, what were your school colors?
Red, old gold.
Red or gold?
Red or gold.
Okay. And what?
Well, some folks say it was white, but I can't find that anywhere.
Okay. And what was your mascot?
The Golden Lion.
Golden Lions.
And we named that after Mr. Keel retired, we gave the Golden Lion a name. And that Golden Lion's name is Charlie.
Oh, Charlie the Golden Lion was the mascot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, really, I'm sorry, King Charlie.
King Charlie.
And that's Mr. Keel. You know, some of the faculty members behind his back would call him Charlie.
Oh, okay.
And Miss Moore was one of them.
Okay. 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 So, Miss Green, thank you very much for the interview.